Okay, let's go over the Gemara that we learned yesterday. The Gemara we mentioned started with this concept of or pila. Or pila was the light rain, and that it's beneficial even for seeds that are under the ground. And the Gemara said that a tsurba merabanan, a sharp young rabbi, is similar to this partsida, to this seed that's under the earth, because once he starts growing, he blossoms. And then we spoke about the scholar who has a gets angry. But the Gemara says it's really the Torah in him that's getting him angry, and which means that he's more sensitive and affected by things. And the way it seemed that we were leaning to explain it is maybe he's angry when people do things wrong, and it's an element of rebuke, where he's angry, and it's the Torah that's really angry. And there's a pasuk that mentions that Torah is like fire. And Rav Ashi also mentions that a Talmud Chacham that's not strong like iron is not a scholar. Scholar that's not strong like iron, like there has to be a certain stubbornness when a person is a scholar. And he brings also a pasuk. He says it's like a hammer that breaks stones. And then Reb Abba brought a different verse. He says, Eretz Asher Avoneha Barzel, the land of Eretz Yisrael, that its stones are iron, and we don't translate it as stones, but we translate it as its builders are iron. So the builders, meaning the Torah scholars who keep up in their merit the Torah, the land exists. So it's Baineha, the builders. They are like iron. So he has another verse that emphasizes the same idea about this. In a scholar, they have to have a certain stubbornness, unbending, unwavering in certain areas. And then the Gemara then says the opposite, that Rama Ravina, nevertheless, they need to learn to be benichusa. They have to be more pleasant with people. And as it says in a pasuk, haser kas milibecha, remove anger from your heart. So we have on the one hand, it mentions initially all these opinions about how strong a scholar has to be, and even if he's angry, it's the Torah that's making him angry. And but Ravina then comes and says, but at the same time, it shouldn't be that way, and you should quiet it down, pleasant, to have more nichusa, more pleasantness with people, and remove the anger from your heart. Yes, Ben.
I wanted to say, when they say it's the Torah, they mean it's the Torah in them is very strict. They don't have much room to move left and right, and that's what makes them hard. So it's not that they are getting angry for nothing. They are limited in what they can do and what they can say, but how to teach somebody that is not teachable, or somebody that is not getting it, and that's what brings the anger out.
So what you're saying is because the Torah doesn't give so much leeway. It's pretty much
right.
It says you got to do it this way.
Torah as it's written, and that's makes it difficult for a teacher to try and accept words from the students that are not following.
Mm-hmm. Right. Okay. All right. That's a good point.
Rabbi.
Yes.
You were saying before Banayach, is this similar to what it says in Pirkei Avos? You read it Banayach Ela Banayach.
Yeah, we say right in the Ein Kilakeno at the end of Ein Kilakeno. Al Tikre Banayach Al Bainayach. Shalom Rav Levi Sevisacha Bein Lamer Michshol. So
is this the source of that, or is
it's
this...
a similar it's a similar teaching over there that Tikre Banayach Al Bainayach that talks about the peace that the so it's not the same thing. There it's talking about that the scholars are Marbim Shalom Talmidei Chacham Rabbi Shalom Ba'ilam Shnem Rav Chol Banayach Mudi Hashem Rav Shalom Banayach Al Tikre Banayach Al Bainayach. Over there it doesn't say stones, and we translate it to mean the builders. Over there it says children, and we translate it to mean builders, meaning the scholars. So it's a similar teaching, but over there it's mentioning that the Talmidei Chachamim add peace to the world, because the Shalom Rav Lo Yaveis Horsecha, a lot of peace to those that and it says Rav Shalom Banoyach. So it's, in other words, it's Rav Shalom Banoyach Al Tikre Banoyach Al Bainayach. That when it says Rav Shalom is Banoyach, is in your sons, it means in your builders. That there's that the scholars bring a lot of peace, which sounds like the opposite almost from our Gemara. Our Gemara says that they get angry, and in Kalakeno it sounds like they bring a lot of peace.
There is a difference between teaching somebody and praise of God, which we have here. That
they bring a lot of peace. I will tell you. Well, I'll tell you something interesting. Sorry, Ben, but I'll tell you something interesting. That it says the reason why they bring a lot of peace is because they argue so much with their colleagues in learning that they fulfill all the elements of anger and arguments that need to be in the world. And that means that the world can then have more peace. So instead of it being a war, instead of there being fights and all different types of fights in the world, the Talmidei Chachamim fulfill that, whatever element of machlokes is meant to be in the world, they fulfill that need with their scholarly debates and discussions. And so by doing that, it actually brings more peace in the world. But in any event, our Gemara mentions that that you do find sometimes that they will have anger, and you have to understand that their anger is from the Torah. It's the Torah that is causing them to have that anger, because Torah is like fire. But still, maybe what Ravina says, that they have to learn to teach themselves to be more calm and pleasant with people. So maybe that fits with the Ein Kalakeno statement that they bring more peace in the world. Maybe it's after they've taught themselves to be calm. So you could say that as well. Anyway, both interpretations seem to fit. They bring peace to the world because of their anger with each other. Okay.
Where we at?
Where are we at? We are still going over the Gemara of yesterday. We're going to mention now the 3 people that asked Hashem. We're on page 4a. 4a. 3 people asked Hashem. They asked Hashem for things, and 2 of them, they asked inappropriately. 2 of them, Hashem answered appropriately in a proper manner, and 1 of them, Hashem answered in an inappropriate manner, so to speak. Who were these 3 people? So Eliezer, servant of Avraham, Shaul, the king Saul, and Yiftach, the Shofet, the judge, Yiftach Hagiladi from Gilad. What did you say?
Sorry.
So the Gemara says, what were their requests? So Eliezer had a request that Hashem should help him find the wife for Yitzchok, and he said the girl that comes and says, please turn your pitcher, tip your pitcher, give to that I may drink, and she'll say, I'll water, I'll also water your camels as well. She should be the right one, right? That was the the request of Eliezer. So the thing is, he didn't take into consideration that that such a request includes that maybe even if she's a lame or blind girl, that could be included in such a request. But Hashem nevertheless gave Eliezer a girl that was perfect, that was fine. Zamalai Rivka. Rivka was appeared to him, and she was not a chiger, lame or blind. Now we mentioned the question of Taisus that maybe he didn't need to ask that part because he could have seen right away. He's not going to ask her for water if she's lame or she's blind. He'll ask someone else. He'll find someone. He'll choose. He'll see that she's lame or blind. So that's not the girl that he hasn't. From the girls that he might ask, he wants the one that he's going to ask. Should be she'll offer that and he'll know it's the right one. But of course, if she's blind, if she's lame or blind, he's not going to ask her. So Taisus answered that there are ways of hiding person's lameness and blindness. When a person has eyes, you can't tell if they're blind or not. A person has a wooden leg. Of course, they're wearing a skirt or pants. They you can't tell. So it's possible that he wouldn't have seen, and that's the meaning of the Gemara that you don't always you can't always know. And what's interesting is there is a Shilas Tshuva. There's a question that was asked to a big Rav called his name was the Marcheshvan. And the question was, this girl was engaged to a man, and the man wanted to break off the shidduch. He wanted they were engaged, and the chassan said, I changed my mind. I found out something that I didn't know, and I want to break off the shidduch. I want to go look elsewhere. So what was the issue? He found out that she was lame, that she had a wooden leg. So the girl claimed that it's not correct. You can't break it off because you must have known. We spoke for a long time and we even took a little walk. And so you can't tell me that you didn't realize because, we spent some time together. And so how could you claim now that you want to break it off because I have a wooden leg? We were together. You knew. You must have known. So the Marcheshvan said, I have a proof from Taisvis. I could prove something from this Gemara in Taanis that we just learned from the Taisvis over here. He says, I could prove to you. We see a proof here that his claim is a correct claim, that the man could say it's possible that he didn't know. How do you see that? Because the Gemara says that Eliezer asked Hashem, Shaloi Kahaygen, he asked Hashem in a way that was, so he didn't really spell everything out properly. He asked him in an improper manner, because it's possible that he would have gotten a girl that's lame. And Taisus asked, what do you mean he would have seen? And Taisus answers, no, you don't always see. A person has a wooden leg. That's possible for them to hide it. So could have gotten a girl that was lame, and he would have ended up taking her, and it would have been not the appropriate type of match for Yitzchok. And so you see from Taisvis that it's that you can't claim that a person automatically sees if someone's lame because it's possible for them to hide it, so to speak, to get around, and it looks good. This is an interesting original source of prosthetic legs that you could see. I see they used to have it even in the Gemara, the time of the Gemara, right? And to the extent that it's even can't even see it. They could hide it so well. Must have been able to. They had physical therapy over there that they knew how to get around, walk around with
Rabbi,
it. Very interesting. Yes,
Rabbi.
yes, Moshe. Yes.
She doesn't need. I mean, if she's tanua,
Right.
or tzinuah, then she's actually wearing a very long dress. He wouldn't
Right.
be able to see if she had a wooden leg or
Right.
not.
Right. The only thing is, I guess, from the fact that she probably limped, how good could she have walked? So it's from the limp and from, that's what it means. Doesn't mean that you would have seen her physical leg, but from the limp and from, how good could you hide it? But from Taisus, sounds like they used to be very, they were able to hide it very well, just like in today's day and age, I guess, it's possible to hide it. Okay, so
Rabbi,
yes,
would
David.
a woman want to marry a man who's sort of forced to marry her based on some type of halachic technicality?
Well, it's
Like
not
if he's trying to get out of it, who wants to marry somebody that's trying to get out of the marriage? And you're going to force him because of some halachic,
right. Right. So I think there's 2 points here. One is there could be a financial element to it that that if someone wants to break off a shidduch, they sort of have to appease the other side. So it could be that unless it was unless there was something that they weren't told about. So it could be there was some element of appeasement that would be necessary if he really should have knew, then he would, in order to break it, it's not a simple thing to break off a shidduch. Number two, so it could be a financial matter. Number two, it could be that she just wanted to put put everything on the table. At least he knows, that he's, he knew and he's playing games, and if he still wants to break it after that, but at least he should, have an open mind to realize what the facts are. But in the end, turns out that we trust that the Rav trusted the man and said, he really didn't know, and he had the right to break it. I don't know what the conclusion of the story is if he ended up breaking it, but at least she did put up a good. I know it's not that she was going to force him to marry. You could always break off a shidduch. It's just that they're it's not a simple thing. It's a negative. It creates a negative element to you don't want to have any judgment against you in heaven. So that's where what it boils down to. Like, is he sure that he really should be breaking it? So she just put up a strong front to, that he has to, he should realize if he's breaking it, this is carrying with. There were many stories where like someone had bad things happening to them, and they went to the Rebbe. The Rebbe told him, "Did you ever break off a shidduch and didn't ask forgiveness?" So there are such. So I think that would be a good answer to your question. Yes, Ben.
There's two reasons that she might say that. One, she might have spent a lot of time on this shidduch, and in that time she could have been talking to somebody else. And the other is that from now on, everybody knows that she has a wooden leg.
So he's causing her damage,
Right.
a bigger damage. But in any event, would she still want to marry him if he really doesn't want to marry her? That was David's question. It's a very a question for a counselor, a psychologist. But but I don't think she was gonna force. I said my answer to you is I don't think she's able to force him, because anyone could break off a shidduch, but she wants it to be just clarity, and financially maybe she was hoping that he
compensated
would
for what she
compensated,
lost. Yeah.
right? Okay.
I liked your answer, Rabbi, because of the financial situation. Maybe there's if they have to cancel the wedding hall, there's you just can't back out. There's fines, and maybe she flew someplace and her the flights have to be reimbursed because it was somebody's fault instead of the other person's fault. There were expenditures.
I don't know if they had planes then.
Well, they traveled. There's travel expenses.
Right. So if she had tricked him, or he didn't know, then it could be more her fault. In fact, I think in today's day and age, they tell the shadchanim, I think they have a rule that like if you have something hidden that it's important that the other side knows and you don't say, it's wrong. You should. I think they say you're supposed to say it on the third or fourth date. I think they have like a accepted rule. I don't know I'm not really sure. I know in my day, I think that's what they used to say. Like on the third date, like he must sometimes find out things. Uh, uh, there's something I want to tell you. Or this and that. So it's like you have to you don't know what you're ready for. Like what they're gonna really say. I used to be I was in prison. I was this. Who knows what what secrets are gonna come out over there when it gets more serious. So in other words, once this way, the shidduch, you could at least get to know the person. And then if you're starting to feel it's more serious, then you can start revealing things. You don't have to reveal everything up front. They don't have to know every detail about your life and how, person's parents didn't get along. You don't have to tell them about your, every detail of your life, but you don't have to tell them that the person has, person has a certain health issue or something. You have to reveal that the whole world doesn't have to know about it. Like Ben was mentioning, the whole world has to know about my thing. No. But the third date, they're getting close. It's getting more serious. That's when, I don't know if nowadays they follow that. The third, maybe it's the fourth, the fifth, but there must be some rule about it. I'm not I haven't been in the shidduchim stage in 23 years. So Baruch Hashem. So I don't know what's going on lately. And my kids, Baruch Hashem, are just about, we haven't started yet. Okay.
We had that situation with my wife and I because she has childhood diabetes. So she told me, I think it must have been like the third or fourth date. And she said, I want you to know this before you make a commitment that I have this, and it's a major health problem. It could be a major health problem. There's the insulin and all this stuff. And I said, okay, let's do it. I'm good.
Right.
But it was good. It was similar to what you're saying, that there's a health problem, and the other person, it could be something, doesn't have to be my uncle's murderer or bank robber. It could be something as simple as similar.
Right. Exactly. Okay, so going back to the Gemara here. So we mentioned Taisvis over here in that story. Now, the next case was the case with Shaul HaMelech. That was another case where Shaul asked something that was Shaloi Kahogen, that was not appropriate. What was that story? So Shaul was the story of where Goliath was looking for a fight, and Shaul wanted someone to go and kill Goliath, and he made this announcement. Of course, it was a very dangerous thing. Goliath was this giant, and it was a very person, a warrior. To kill Goliath was not a simple thing. And David HaMelech was the one who ended up agreeing. I'll do it. He was a young kid. People laughed at him. They didn't trust him. They didn't believe. But Shaul said, whoever is the man who's going to go and slay Goliath, the king will make him rich, very rich, Oisher Gadol, and his daughter he will give him. And so the Gemara mentions he's going to give him. He promised he's going to give him his daughter. What about if the guy who kills Goliath is an eved, is a slave, or a mamzer, or an illegitimate child who's not allowed to be to marry his daughter? So nevertheless, Hashem made appear to him David. Hashem sent David to go. David was the one who did it. It was Baruch Hashem. With all the stories that we find out afterwards about Shaul and David, but at least David did not have those issues. Now,
Rabbi,
yes,
there's a similar situation that preceded that with Yisro. said that the man who uproots this stick that's stuck in the ground, I'm going to give him my daughter to wed. And Moshe went into the garden outside of Yisro's tent, and there was this stick that was stuck in there, and he went to give a look at it because it had Hebrew writing on it. And he said, "What is this?" And the stick jumped out of the ground into his hand, and Yisro said, "Oh, this is the man that's going to marry my daughter."
Right. Right. Interesting. Interesting. Uh-huh.
That's
That's
a
a
midrash,
medrash.
isn't it?
It must be a medrash. It's not there. It's
Yeah,
not
it's a
there.
midrash. It's not from the
Right.
Torah.
Right. Taisus asked like another story. Kolev had a story, but that's interesting that story. The only thing I would say is there it's a little different because like a Yisrael would have been satisfied to have a mamzer or a evet. It's fine among the goyim. That's not a big deal. That's that's like good. He's a good guy, so he has a useless issue, you know, that to them, and there's no such, it's that's not considered a blemish, maybe, you know, for a yid, that's a major blemish. It's usher, but anyway, it's just a thought. Maybe that's why the Gemara doesn't mention it. Taisus is bothered with why didn't the Gemara say about Eliezer that maybe it's going to appear a girl who was a mamzeres or a shifcha. In other words, the same question that the Gemara asks about Shaul, the Gemara could have asked about it could have asked it about Eliezer, that you're just gonna any girl who just offers to give to drink and she offers the camels to do it, that's it, she's gonna be the right one, and you're just gonna take it. What about you might get you end up with a mamzeres or a shivcha. So Taisha says that wasn't a problem before the Torah was given. So there's no issue. But the question on Taisus is, what do you mean that before the Torah was given? We know the Avos kept the whole Torah. So how does it help? So how does Taisus answer this question? That he brings Rashi. Rashi says that that's before the Torah was given. But how does that help? That if they kept the Torah, then you couldn't have been able to marry such a person. So there is such an opinion that says that everything besides for marriage laws they kept before the Torah was given. There is such a view. So according to that view, it's not such a problem. They didn't keep the laws of marriage because we know that Yaakov married 2 wives. Moshe Rabbeinu's father Amram married his aunt. So we do find that there were definitely some marriages there that were not allowed according to Torah. That even those that kept the Torah before the Torah was given, they still sort of like transgressed those laws of marriage. So there's such a view. The question on that is, and there are some great rabbis that ask, they say, what do you mean? The marriage should be the most important. It's such a major element. How could you say that? And therefore they have come up with other answers of how Avram, how Yaakov married 2 wives, right? There's a number of answers how he was able to marry 2 wives. They were from different mothers, maybe, and they were Magayer, so they weren't. So even though they converted. So because they converted, they're considered like new children, so they're not related to each other. And even though rabbinically they're considered prohibited. Even two converts, two women that are converted from the same family, you wouldn't be allowed to marry them, rabbinically. But nevertheless, because they're from different mothers, it's not a problem. So there are other answers. We know the Rebbe has an answer about the Yaakov married two wives because he promised Rachel. What's in the promise overrides the stringency of keeping the Torah. So in other words, he kept the Torah except when it transgressed a different law. And here he had promised Rachel already he was going to marry her, and he ended up marrying Leah first. So he ended up having to marry Rachel because of his promise, and the promise overrides a chumrah, a stringency of not marrying keeping the Torah before the Torah was given. And then you have the Ramban that says that they were able to marry two wives, that they didn't have to keep the Torah when they were outside of Israel. The Ramban says outside of Israel, they didn't keep, only in Israel they kept the whole Torah. So that would be another excuse of how they didn't really keep the Torah there. The question is, so it's not going to answer Taisus. Taisus over here says that it didn't bother Eliezer if she was a mamzeres or a shifcha. It didn't bother him. What do you mean? Yitzchok is in Eretz Yisrael. Yitzchok is in Israel, and in Israel, they kept the whole Torah. So how could that how that wouldn't seem to help? So there is a pshat here. So one answer would be that they didn't keep the laws of marriage. Another pshat could be that there's no concept of a mamzer before the Torah was given. In other words, a man is not allowed to marry a married woman. He can't live with, he can't have relations with a married woman. The child, after the Torah was given, is called a mamzer. Before the Torah was given, not necessarily was that child have the status of a mamzer or mamzeres. So therefore, the concept of the illegitimate child was not a term before the Torah was given. That term was not even a proper term. So that could be. I don't know how it answers shifcha. That's the only thing, because shifcha, there probably were slaves in those days. So there was a concept of a slave. Mamzeres, maybe there was no concept of, but a shifcha, maybe there was. So we would think that he's not allowed to marry a shifcha unless they didn't have shifchas. And I don't know.
But later he did marry a shifcha because Rachel and Leah, they each had a shifcha.
Rabbi,
that's an interesting point. That's an interesting point. But it seems that he freed her before. So maybe that's the answer. He could have freed the shifcha. So he wouldn't mad that's not a problem. Shifcha you could just free. Does that work?
I guess Rachel or Leah
you could just free her. So maybe that's the answer. That according to that, you could answer it.
So they freed them, yeah.
Because they free them, and then they're not shifchas anymore. Right. So yeah, what do you want? Someone want to say something?
Yeah. How come they don't include in this category? Avram technically married his sister. Remember, he said, "She's my sister. She's my brother. He's my brother," and because they were siblings from the same. Was it the same father?
No, it was the same grandfather. It was okay.
Yeah,
so it wasn't really said that he said that he was allowed to say that, but there wasn't a legal. Wasn't.
No. They weren't actually siblings.
No.
Okay.
It was an exaggeration.
You could say Cain and Hevel married their sisters, but that was Olam Chesed Yibana. That was there was no one else in the world to marry. But okay, so the Shvatim married their sisters. That's but we don't find necessarily that they kept all the rules. The Shvatim, you know what I mean? Like this is the Avais. We know they mamash kept all the chumras.
Rabbi.
Yes, Moshe.
In Mitzrayim, though, the Egyptians married their own sisters and their own families. That's why they had hemophilia. It was there was a high rate of hemophilia as a result of intermarriage in the family. So the Shvatim, I mean, they come out of Mitzrayim. They're going to follow the same. This is before the Torah was given. So I mean, obviously It was a similar situation.
I don't know that that's true. I don't believe so. I don't know that in Egypt that they did that. if the fact that the Shvatim married their sisters was obviously acceptable, and for what, somehow they had some tradition that was what they were supposed to do. But I don't believe that there was, in fact, when the Yidden left Mitzrayim, the Torah mentions all the family names, and it says a Yud in the beginning and a Hey at the end, as if Hashem is testifying that they were all pure. So it doesn't seem that they would have that they did any of incest. Okay, so getting back to our Gemara here, we have the story of Shaul, and he didn't take into consideration that the person might have been a Eved or a Mamzer. And then the story of Yiftach, and Yiftach is the painful story to how he made this commitment that whatever emerges from the doors of his house, he's going to give as a sacrifice. And he didn't realize that, he didn't take into consideration it could have been a davar tamei, something unclean. And Hashem answered also in an inappropriate way. His daughter ran out of the house, and basically he ended up either slaughtering her as a sacrifice, or
exiling her,
or he separated her, that she was given over to Hashem, and she couldn't get married. There's a question on that pshat that Even Ezra wants to learn, that pshat, that she was separated, she was like a cherem to Hashem, that she's given over to Hashem. And the Ramban has some questions on that. He says, how could that be? Just because you give someone over to Hashem, look at Shmuel. Shmuel, his mother gave him over to Hashem, and he got married. Shmuel Hanavi. So why should she not be able to get married? What?
Yitzchok.
Right. Yitzchok also, he became an oila, he became a burnt offering. That's right. Good point. When he was brought on the altar, he was like sanctified, and yet he was allowed to get married. So why should this girl, Yiftach's daughter, not be able to get married? Now, so the Ramban learns that he actually slaughtered his own daughter, because of his promise. And Taanis over here, we mentioned yesterday, gives us this whole story of how Yiftach was arrogant, and Pinchas also showed some element of arrogance, and because of that, they both got punished. Yiftach could have gone and been matir neder, could have gone to a rav to exempt him, to annul his vow, and he didn't. He said, "Let Pinchas come to me," and Pinchas said, "Let Yiftach come to me. Yiftach's only a shayfet. I'm the navi. I'm the." So basically, both of them got punished for not humbling themselves, and ultimately, whatever happened to her, it definitely is a very sad story. And this is the story where it says that Hashem answered him shaloi kohagen, like in an inappropriate way. In other words, Hashem chose to answer him the way he asked. He asked in an inappropriate way, and Hashem answered him that way. And that's where the Gemara brings this pasuk: is there no medicine in Gilad? No cream in Gilad, like medical cream, and there's no physician there, and that refers to the fact that couldn't someone have been matir neder? Couldn't someone have been nulled the vows? There's no doctor, meaning no pin. What about Pinchas? And the Gemara then brings another pasuk that says, things that I didn't command, Hashem was angry. He says, the things that I didn't command, I didn't speak, and I didn't even think about. And one of them was the son of Mesha, the king of Moab. Another one was this story of Yiftach, that Hashem said, I never said that he should give her as a sacrifice. And and I never thought was referring to Yitzchok. Okay. Fine. So now we're up to we mentioned the part of this Gemara as well yesterday, that Reb Berechia said even Knesset Yisrael, even the Yidden, made an inappropriate request, and they said, but Hashem answered them properly. What did they say? Neida nirdefal adasas Hashem. Let us know, let us pursue the knowledge of Hashem. Keshachar nochain moitzoi v'yavei geshem lanu. His going forth is definite, like the morning, like the sun, and he shall come to us like the rain. And Hashem said, my daughter, you asked me something that sometimes is good, sometimes is not good, like rain is not always good. I will be something that's always wanted, and that's like tal. I'll be like dew to the Jewish people. That dew is always wanted. Now we're up to the next Gemara. That's where we left off yesterday. Another thing that the Jewish people asked in an inappropriate way, and where are we on page? We're on page 4A. 4A, 6 lines or 7 lines from the bottom of the page. 7 lines from the bottom of the page, the first wide line. And if you have the art scroll, it is on page 4A2. 4A2.
Amar Rabbi Shmuel.
V'oid. It's it says v'oid sho'ala shaloi kohegan. Another question they asked in an inappropriate way, and Amra, what did they ask? Amra Lafanav uses the female. She said before him, meaning the Jewish people. She said before Hashem, Rabbeinu Shalai, the Master of the world, Simani, place me, K'chaisem alibecha, like a seal on your heart, K'chaisem al zrayecha, like a seal on your arm. And Amar Lo, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Hashem answers her, Biti, my daughter, At shayelas davar, you're asking for something, Shepamim nira, pamim eina nira, that sometimes it's visible, and sometimes it's not visible. Something on the heart, a seal on the heart or on the arm, can't be seen always, at least. But I will make you something which can be seen always. Shenemar, as it says, Hein al kapayim chakleisich. Behold, on my palms I have engraved you. From the word chakika. So I have engraved you on the palms, and the understanding is that the hands are always visible. Another pshat is that Hashem engraved the Jewish people on his heavenly throne. So kapayim refers to the heavens, the heavenly throne that Hashem engraved us there, and he always sees us. Yes, Moshe.
No, it's Ezra.
Oh, Ezra, I'm sorry.
Amra over here is talking about what, Israel, right?
Amra is the Jewish people, yeah.
Okay, so they're asking to be placed on like tefillin.
That's okay. Interesting term, yeah.
No, it says Tkachotam alibecha, which is the shel, you know.
Yeah. Sounds good. I like it. Does it say in one of the commentaries?
I don't know. I mean, the way I read it, it sounded like it was
that's a good. You picked up something there. That's interesting. It's a pasuk in Shir Hashirim. Is that which is interesting, very interesting. I wonder if it mentions there in Shir Hashirim, if the commentaries mention that refers to that's alluding to tefillin. Now let's pull up in the Sefaria here. Let's take a look. It's in Shir Hashirim chapter 8. Let's take a look. Shir Hashirim chapter 8. I like that, but definitely a good catch. Actually, it makes sense for you to know this. You probably say it every Shabbos. Ezra?
Right.
You got
yes,
an
right in saying it.
advantage. You have an advantage over us. You've said this thousands of times.
I
Okay.
wish.
Let me be a seal upon your heart, like the seal upon your hand. For love is fierce as death. Passion is mighty as Sheol, which also means death. Its darts are darts of fire, a blazing flame. Let's see how the commentary's over here. For the sake of that love, seal me upon your heart, so that you do not forget me, and you will see. The extent of my love that I loved you is to me equal to my death, for I am killed for your sake. Rashi does not mention here tefillin. Interesting. Let's see if someone else does here. Let's see. I don't see it, but it sounds so good. It's such a beautiful insight. That is just like tefillin. Wow. I don't. Here's I'm into this. Please. Yeah, I'm not seeing other commentaries mentioned. But I have to take a look in my other Sfarim. But that's a nice, very nice insight. Thank you, Ezra, because we do know that Hashem puts tefillin on. It has all the praises of Klal Yisrael. It sounds like a perfect. The only thing is the seal to me sounds maybe like it means permanent. Maybe that's why. Maybe that's the reason why the commentaries don't see it as, or maybe that maybe that's why it's not so automatic. So Hashem says, "I'm going to be permanent." And I engraved you in my hands. In other words, the tefillin is put on and taken off. Maybe.
So Hashem doesn't wear tefillin all the time?
I guess it's like the Jewish people. I don't know. It's a good question. Is Hashem's tefillin constantly on, or does he take it off just like us? Because what? Shabbos and Chol. That's a good question. Maybe Hashem does keep it on always. Like even night is a zman tefillin, it says. So maybe it is. Maybe that's a good point. Even night is up, but Shabbos is not, because Shabbos we don't need a sign.
What's his sign? How does he have his zman?
What do you mean? There's no Shabbos?
How does he have? Say that. I said, how does he have his zman?
When he has Shabbos, whatever Shabbos is.
Shabbos. I just said because that means you have to be in time to have a zman, and he's not part of time; he's outside of time.
But he encloses himself in time as well. In other words, he's in the world.
I don't know.
Hashem is filling the world. But the thing is, that's a good point. Is Hashem's tefillin like permanent, or is it like ours that you put it on?
Where does he start his day? Is it Greenwich time? Is it near Yerushalayim? It would be Yerushalayim time.
Okay, we are going to continue. We are on page 4a, the bottom, the two dots. Ein shayel and asagashamim. The Mishnah said this strange statement. This is a new Gemara. New Gemara now. The Mishnah was talking about mentioning rain, Mashiv Haruach Mered Geshem, praising Hashem for rain, that we praise Hashem, that He's strong. Ato Gibar, you are strong. Machayim Mesim Atarav Loishia. Mashiv Haruach Mered Geshem. Hashem blows the winds and He brings down rain. And the Mishnah had a debate when we start mentioning the rain. And then the Mishnah jumped and said, we do not ask for rain only close to the rainy season. So we jumped from mentioning rain, which is praise of Hashem, to the asking of rain, which is many paragraphs later in Shemona Esrei, where we ask Hashem for rain. And there, and the Mishnah just seems to just jump right into it as if it's part and parcel of what we're talking about. But really, asking for rain is different than mentioning. And there are different laws about it. So the Mishnah said we do not request rain only close to the rainy season. So the Gemara says, Savruha, we assumed that, or they assumed, the students assumed when they learned this Mishnah that she'elo v'hazkara choda milsahi, that when the Mishnah says asking for rain, it meant it loosely. It meant it loosely, meaning that really it meant mentioning rain, and it used the word asking, but it really didn't mean it so precisely, and it wasn't being so precise in its term, and therefore they thought when they studied this Mishnah, they thought that she'ela v'hazkara, asking, requesting, and hazkara, mentioning, is choda milsahi. It's really one of the same things, and refers to the mentioning of the rain, even though it says asking for rain. So the Gemara says, Montana, who is the author of this statement that you mention rain close to the rainy season? Amar Rava. So Rava says that who could this be that you're only mentioning rain when it's close to the rainy season, not earlier? Who could this be? So Rava says, Rabbi Yoshua, this is Rabbi Yoshua. Rabbi Yoshua says that you mention the rain when you put down the lulav. When you put down the lulav, you mention the rain. And Rashi tells us here, this is a very debatable Rashi. Rashi says it's from the 8th day, Mini Atzeres. The problem is there's another Rashi that says that this view holds the 7th day. That we talked a little about it, that two ways of learning Rashi. But Rashi here says the 8th day, when you put down the lulav, that's when you start mentioning the rain. Right. And that's close to the rainy season. That's the rainy season, because when do we ask for rain? We ask right after Yantav. We start asking for rain. So it's the rainy season already. Sukkot is over, so it's the rainy season. So it's close to so this would not fit with Rabbi Eliezer, who says you start mentioning rain before at the beginning of Sukkot, but at the end of Sukkot, Shmini Atzeres, that would fit. That fits with this statement that it's Rabbi Yeshua that holds that's on the 8th day when you put down the lulav. In other words, you put it down on the 7th day, at the end of the 7th day. So on the 8th day, you start mentioning rain. It's close to the rainy season, by the rainy season. Amar le Abaye. Abaye said to Rava, Afilo Tema Rabbi Eliezer, that you could even fit this with Rabbi Eliezer, because instead of claiming that the word she'ela, request, here means mentioning, maybe it does mean requesting. Maybe it means asking. And maybe he's being precise in his words. Maybe he's specifically mentioning asking, that you don't ask for rain only close to rain. And it's talking about when you ask later on in the Shemona Esrei, when you ask the same Palu Mater Levracha, that it means that you only ask for rain when it's close to the rainy season. She'ela l'chud v'hazkara l'chud. That when it says asking, it's specifically asking, and it only means asking. And when it says mentioning, it's mentioning is a thing of its own. It's l'chud, it's on its own. And therefore the Mishnah was exact when it mentioned this. And Rabbi Eliezer, even though he says you mention rain before the time of the rainy season, but asking, you only ask when it's close to the rainy season. And so that would fit. The Ika de Amri, and some say, as there's a slightly different version of this. Some say that Lema, some say it this way, Lema, and now we turn the page, we're on 4b now. Lema Rabbi Yoshuahi, the Amar Mishas Anachosai, that the Gemara starts off and says, let's say this fits with Rabbi Yoshua, that he says that when do you start mentioning rain close to the rainy season, which is when you put down the lulav. So it's Mishas Anachosai, you put it down, which means Shmini Atzeres, the end of Sukkot. That's when it's close to the rainy season. You start mentioning rain. You start saying Masha Baruch Marcheshvan. Amar Rava. So Rava said, Afilu Tema Rebbe Eliezer, that Rava said that no, you could even fit this with Rebbe Eliezer as long as you don't translate it the same way, She'ela l'chud v'azkara l'chud, but rather you explain, you have to explain the Mishnah to mean it's very specific. She'ela means she'ela. Requesting means requesting, and mentioning means mentioning, meaning they're not using the words in a loose way. They're using them very specifically. And when it says requesting, it means requesting. And Rabbi Eliezer holds that even though you can mention rain before the time of rain, but you would only ask for rain at the right time and the correct season. The next part of the Mishnah that we are about to discuss is the final opinion that was in the Mishnah, where Rabbi Yehuda mentions that you change everything at Musaf time. Rabbi Yehuda says that the debate in the beginning of the Mishnah, Rabbi Eliezer, Rabbi Yeshua, I hold you switch it at the Musaf time, the Musaf Shemini Esrei, which was different than the earlier opinion. I should just mention one of the questions that the commentaries ask over here is that the Gemara jumps to say that we're going to follow Rabbi Yeshua. And which Rabbi Yeshua does the Gemara want to follow? It wants to say that this is the Rabbi Yeshua of the Brisa. Why doesn't it want to say it's the Rabbi Yeshua of the Mishnah? We had two versions of Rabbi Yeshua. The Gemara here was jumping to say, you know what, that this refers to the Rabbi Yeshua of the Brisa, but it would seem that you could fit it with Rabbi Yeshua of the Mishnah. Rabbi Yeshua of the Mishnah said also that same opinion, and it would make more sense to say that what the Mishnah is mentioning, about when do you mention the rain? You mention it samach l'geshamim. So if we want to say that this is following an opinion, it would seem to fit with Rabbi Yeshua of the Mishnah. They basically said very similar opinions. Rabbi Yeshua of the Mishnah said that you start on Shmini Atzeres, and here Rabbi Yeshua of the Brisa we're mentioning that it's also again it's the same Rabbi Yeshua ben Chananya. But this Rabbi Yeshua, there were two views of what he specifically said. He either held that you start on Shachris, the morning of Shmini Atzeres, or he held you started Ma'ariv of Shmini Atzeres. Why is the Gemara jumping to say that it has to be Rabbi Yeshua of the Brisa that says you started Ma'ariv of Shmini Atzeres? Why wouldn't the Gemara be satisfied with saying that that is Rabbi Yeshua of the Mishnah? So now Rabbi Yeshua of the Brisa, I should also mention that there were two opinions. One opinion of Rabbi Yeshua of the Brisa, the commentaries, they say it might mean that you start on Hoshana Rabbah. That on Hoshana Rabbah is when you really start. So if you hold that, then it could fit maybe better, because if you hold that, it means on Hoshana Rabbah. So you could say that it's on the seventh day that you really start. So it's samach l'geshamim, it's close. The eighth day is when it's time for rain. The seventh day would be it's close to the time of rain. So that would be a reason why maybe the Gemara was saying Mishas that it's following Rishon of the Brisa, because it's you mention rain close to the time of rain, but not at the time of rain. In other words, even before, close to it. So the time of rain is on the eighth day, but the seventh day is close to the time of rain. So therefore, you would mention it on the seventh day, which is different than the Mishnah. The Mishnah, as Rabbi Yeshua said, that it's on the eighth day that you start mentioning it. But the eighth day maybe is already time for rain. And it says you're supposed to say it close to the time of rain. So that would fit with Rabbi Yeshua of the Brisa. If you translate that, Rabbi Yeshua of the Brisa holds on the seventh day. When you put down the lulav and esrog, even on the seventh day itself, you would say Masha V'roch Marcheshvan. So that's one way of learning. So the Retiree learns that way. But the other way of learning seems questionable. Why it's following Rabbi Yeshua of the Brisa that says you have to say it at Ma'ariv. Could be Rabbi Yeshua of the Mishnah, especially the Mishnah is right there. So one way of understanding it, I mean, there is a version here that removes this Rabbi Yeshua the Brisa. In other words, there is a different text that says that actually our Gemara doesn't mean Rabbi Yeshua the Brisa, it means Rabbi Yeshua the Mishnah, and it changes the text of Bishas Hanachosoi to be the Mishnah. So there is such a view. Yes.
Can you give me the last name of the Yeshua from the Brisa and Yeshua from the Mishnah?
Yeah, they're both Rabbi Yeshua.
Who's
they're
the
both
father? Who's the father?
Hanania
Hanania is from the Mishnah
and the Brisa.
and the Brisa. Oh, is the father of both of them?
Yeah,
It's
it's the same person.
Two brothers, Yeshua. Oh, it's the same person.
It's the same person, but there's two views of how to quote him.
Oh, I see. The Mishnah is different than the Brisa.
The Mishnah understands Rabbi Yeshua one way. The Brisa understood Rabbi Yeshua a different way. All right, we're going to have to stop here. I don't want to take up more of your time. Sei gesund, everyone. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Thank you, Rabbi. Have a good day, everybody.